I'm going to rank every iconic power in Final Fantasy XVI from least good to most good, because let's face it, every one of these powers goes hard in the right hands. Spoiler warning goes here for Final Fantasy XVI because I will be using footage from the late game, as well as talking about various story events and powers. As we know, Final Fantasy XVI is one of the greatest games ever made. I've said as much 3 times by now. And part of that reason is the excellent combat, and the combat is so excellent because of the various iconic powers you can wield. In the world of Valisthea, there are people called Dominants, who each wield the power of an Eikon, basically a god, that is also a famous Final Fantasy summon. They can wield their element casually, semi-prime into their Super Saiyan form, and fully transform into the powerful creature to lay waste to the world around them. There's 8 of these icons, 7 of which we see in the game. Leviathan apparently got lost somewhere. There's also an 8th one that pops up in the game's opening, a second Dominant of Fire. I wonder if he's going to be important somewhere. Over the course of the game, Clive Rodsfield collects the powers of every icon. You start with the Phoenix, then get Garuda, then Ramuh, and so on and so forth, becoming a true powerhouse of versatile destruction. No Leviathan though. Maybe next time, buddy. See you in the DLCs. But which of these power sets are the best? Or rather, which do I like the most? Because these powers are all fantastic, there's not one that is bad, just ones that I'm not as fond of using as the others. I've completed all the Chronolith trials, which require you to beat waves of enemies with only one Icon's powers at your disposal, so I've had a good amount of experience using all of their powers and abilities. There are only 2 rules for this list. The first one is, an Eikon includes their iconic feat and all of their iconic strikes at mastery. I know that once you've mastered an Icon's powers, you can move them anywhere, but if that was the case, this would just be about ranking iconic feats, and I want to go a bit further than that. For the record, the clear winner is Ifrit. The second rule is that Ifrit's moves will not be included in with the Phoenix. No Willow Wakes or Ignition, nor will Ifrit be present on the list because he gives you no feat, and the Limit Break isn't really comparable to an iconic feat, though for the record, the Limit Break mode absolutely kicks ass. So, with all the rules out of the way, let us begin with the ranking. Number 7, Ramuh. Sodolphus Telamon is one of the most alpha characters I've ever seen in video games. Caring, ruthless, brave, wise, strategic, powerful, a true Giga Chad. And he can turn into Zeus Gandalf Dumbledore and strike you down with the literal wrath of the gods. Awesome stuff all around, amazing character. It's just a shame that his powers are a bit mid when you get a hold of them. No, not that kind of mid. The iconic feat allows you to target up to 9 enemies with lightning balls once fully upgraded that do damage and can leap onto other targets. That's good. That's nice. But the targeting is slow and kills your momentum during combat, enemies can still hit you during it, and the actual attack itself doesn't really do much in my experience beyond farm points in the arcade mode. Pile Drive is an awesome iconic strike, but that's one that's matched by other AoE moves like Scarlet Cyclone. Lightning Rod is honestly mediocre in my opinion. Disclaimer, I'm aware it's super good if you use it right, but it just doesn't fit my particular playstyle, you know? And Thunderstorm is fine, but no more than fine. The saving grace out of these moves is Judgment Bolt. This move is freaking awesome for single target devastation. Unfortunately, you only get 3 slots for icons and 6 slots for iconic strikes, and my peak build leaves the power of Zeus by the wayside. It's a damn shame, because I love lightning powers and his moves are pretty slick, but his feat is weak, and his moves don't really find themselves in any spots on my usual builds. I've only got 6 to work with, and I have to make some sacrifices. Number 6, Garuda. This is going to be my most unpopular choice on this list, and I accept that, but that's what makes these lists so good, the personal touches and opinions. Garuda is the second icon whose powers you get, and a very good choice for it. She gives you a grapple move, the iconic feat Deadly Embrace, letting you pull enemies towards you, or launch yourself skyward against heavier enemies. Excellent stuff, carrying on combos and allowing for easy air attacks. You can also face slam enemies into the ground when they reach half stagger to deal even more will damage and let your damage over time effects do more damage. Wonderful stuff. It's just not for me. This is brilliant, but I like all of these. Garuda's moves never really resonated with me, and while she stayed on my roster for the usefulness of her iconic feat, once I got more than 4 icons, I found her to be less congruent to my desired playstyle. Gouge and Wicked Wheel just weren't the style of moves I was looking for. Rook's Gambit was better replaced with Titan or Shiva's iconic feats, which didn't take up move slots, and I never actually used Aerial Blast during my playthrough except in the Chronolith trials. To clarify once again, Garuda is awesome, she's just not my particular brand of awesome. Those are all coming up right now. Number 5, Titan. It's here where we first meet the iconic parry mechanics. Titan gives you Titanic Block, which lets you block all but the strongest of attacks. Easy enough. However, if you time it just right, you get to block literally any attack and give 3 massive punches in a row as a counter attack, and let me tell you, nothing will make you feel more manly. This counter system is great, kinda like Royal Guard. The counter punches are super weighty and satisfying, and there's no cooldown to the block, so you can parry multiple attacks in a row, even during the counter punches. Titan's actual attacks are fantastic too. Wind Up was a go-to single target damage dealer of mine, and Upheaval is a solid AoE attack. I never really used the 2 other moves, Raging Fist being a decent parry move into an aura attack rush, though ultimately I just prefer the iconic feet parry. And Earthen Fury is an awesome ultimate attack, a powerhouse in the Chronolith trial, yet one that never really fit onto my main build. I just have other moves I prefer more. Ultimately, that kinda sums up Titan. He's excellent, good range of attacks and a solid iconic feat, but the top 4 just outclass him in certain ways that leave him off my roster more often than not. Number 4, Bahamut. As Final Fantasy XVI fans, we can all agree on one thing. The Bahamut boss fight absolutely kicks ass. So when I attained the power of Bahamut, I was so excited. I expected massive nuclear blasts, dragon claw strikes up close, the greatest power of all the icons. I didn't quite get that, but what I did get was still pretty cool. Mega Flare puts Clive into this floating state where he can't do anything except move around and dodge while he builds up energy, going from level 1 to level 4. You can precision dodge in this state to greatly accelerate bar buildup. When you get to a high enough charge, press circle and release a laser to the heavens, which will then rain down energy-based death upon the peasants you happen to be fighting. While the build-up can be slow and kind of disrupts the flow of the combat, when Mega Flare level 4 is raining down around you, you feel like an absolute draconic god. Bahamut's iconic strikes are pretty solid too. Satellite I've literally never used, and Flare Breath is a mediocre offensive move if I'm honest, but Impulse is a fantastic damage over time and will damage builder, probably the best in the game at max level. As for his ultimate move, Giga Flare is a contender for the best move in the game. It is so powerful. This Kamehameha shreds bosses with Broken Will, and the recharge time is way shorter than expected, especially when teamed with the Bahamut's Mercy accessory. Not all of Bahamut's moves may be useful, but the ones that are some of the best in the entire game, and his feat is devastating if used correctly, landing him at a respectable 4th place. What else would you expect from the only Final Fantasy character powerful enough to match Donald Duck? Number 3, Shiva. We enter into the top 3 in the quote-unquote meta of Final Fantasy XVI. As such, it's natural that the Ice Queen finds herself on a podium position. Shiva is the second to last icon you get after one of the most beautiful cutscenes I've ever seen in gaming, in more ways than one. And her power is fantastic. It's like Titan, but better. Instead of parrying attacks, you dodge at the last second, and then you freeze every enemy in the area for a considerable period of time. That's phenomenal. Gives your moves time to recharge so you can spam them again, gives you more time to rack up damage over time effects, and the timer doesn't go down for the duration of super moves. You can leave them frozen for ages. There's also the other version where you dash around and freeze one enemy at a time if you don't do the precision dodge, but that's a little boring. In terms of Shiva's actual strikes, she has a good damage over time dealer in Rhyme, a River of Ice with a fast cooldown that's good to spam, a spinny ice move that I've literally never considered on my main builds, and Diamond Dust, a solid and classic ultimate attack, if not one I've ever really mained on my Clive Rosfield. The skills may be a little hit or miss in terms of my preferences, but her iconic feat is that damn good that Shiva has to take the 3rd spot on the list. She may have taken a while to get, but her power is more than worth it. And that cutscene is so good! Number 2, the Phoenix. I am a simple man. I chose Charmander in Fire Red. I chose Torchic in Ruby. I chose Chimchar in Diamond. Maybe it's my caveman brain instincts that fire equals good. Maybe it's because I used the moveset for the first part of the game and just got used to it. Maybe it's because I like enemy-focused teleporting after playing Final Fantasy XV and using Trickster and Devil May Cry. The point is, I am a huge fan of the Phoenix icon, and it was on my moveset for the entire game. I never considered taking it off. The teleport is such a useful ability, and the strikes are a crucial part of my toolbox. They are all fantastic. Rising Flames is a solid single target damage dealer. Scarlet Cyclone is an excellent AoE attack for the smaller enemies. Heatwave is a sick projectile counter attack. And Flames of Rebirth is one of my favorite attacks in the game. A screen-wide inferno of fire that also restores your health, and it looks so damn cool. Turn the whole planet into a deep fryer for a few seconds, serve you up some enemies extra crispy. Admittedly, the cooldown is a bit absurd, but you can get accessories to help with that. You can tell that the game developers made sure the starting Eikon power set was actually good enough to be worth using in the late game, rather than making it a fine enough tool that gets dropped the second you get access to better weapons. All in all, I'm a big fan of Mega Ultra Chicken, and it was my number one Eikon for a long time. Then there was one other Eikon that cast a dark shadow over the rest of the list. Number 1, Odin. And the best Eikon is the dark and edgy one. That's probably why I like it so much. Or maybe it's because... Odin is by far the Eikon that has received the largest glow up in my appreciation of him. When I first got his power, I was underwhelmed. I mean, yeah, Zantetsuken was cool, but it wasn't anything special compared to my other iconic strikes and it was too hard to use. Then I got level 5, and realized it's an instant screen clearer against almost any basic enemy in the game. That got my attention, but still, charging it up to level 5 was such a hassle. Yeah, Gungnir is cool, so is Heaven's Cloud, but using them only gets you less than halfway, and Steel Counter plus Flash of Steel fill it up a trifling amount. If only there was a way to fully charge the gauge to level 5 with just one move. Odin became a mainstay on Clive in Final Fantasy mode, with the level 5 Zantetsuken being near crucial to my success in that mode. Once I beat Barnabas for the second time and got the accessory that increases Dancing Steel charge by 50%, Odin became a 2-move combo instant win against half of Valisthea, and a crippling blow to anything tough enough to survive that first hit. I also began maining Rift Slip for emergency damage avoiding, and more importantly, cancelling recovery frames from my other moves, in order to cram more damage and recovery time into the enemy's stagger windows. The biggest problem with Odin is that he's a little too good. Zantetsuken in arcade mode kills everything too fast for you to get maximum points. Yeah, how's that for a first world problem? The only major flaw with him is that he's too powerful. Odin is a beast of an Eikon, my favorite in the game, and I seriously recommend trying it out when you get it. Let the Eikon of Darkness bury the light.
These pegs.
And that is all the Eikons ranked in Final Fantasy XVI. At least until Leviathan pipes up in the DLC. As I've said many times, the combat in Final Fantasy XVI is one of my favorites that I've ever experienced. It's utterly incredible, and these power sets are a large part of that praise. Obviously you can mix and match the moves and iconic feats however you like, so there's very little limitation to your build that you want to make, and I enjoy hearing about other people's playstyles and preferences, so be sure to sound off in the comment section below with your own opinions and how you built Clive Rossfield. I would love to hear about it. Apologies for this video taking a while to come out, especially as it was voted for by my Patreon, but my mental health and real world schedule has been very all over the place lately. I've had to prioritize other things and make some sacrifices, and I hope you can all understand. November won't be the most active month for me either, with most of my efforts going towards finishing a questionable recap of Batman Arkham Asylum Part 2, the most anticipated sequel of the year. I plan to make up for this in December though, with semi-frequent uploads for my standards, delivering more of the content that you enjoy. I'm hard at work already, and I promise it'll be worth the wait. As always, you can check out my community tab if you want to see updates on what's going on. With all that said, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.